Welcome back to All True Crime with Jody ASMR. And I have a little bit of new setup here, so I'm very excited. I can do a few more things than just talking. So I can do some tapping, different things, and I can have things in front of me. So anyway, tonight is a special night. I reached 300 subscribers, so I wanted to thank you so much for everybody's support and confidence in me, and just your comments, your views, the interactions have been fantastic. Thank you so much. And anytime that you want to request a case, I try to do it that next day or the day after, unless I forget for some reason. You just remind me. So I do want to say thank you to all my subscribers, and thank you to all the viewers, because I do appreciate you so much. You really have no idea. This is in ASMR style, which means this whole video will be whispered. And I know some people have a problem with that, but others find it very relaxing. So I think it's either or. Either you don't like it at all, or you really do find it very relaxing. So this, because it is a true crime case, we are going to throw out a disclaimer. Please, nobody under the age of 14 watching this. And even then, viewer discretion is advised. Tonight's case is a story about a young man who disappeared in 2008. His name was Brandon Swanson, and literally all these years they have found nothing. And we will start from the beginning. So let's get started. Brandon was a great kid. He had graduated high school and finished his first year at Minnesota West Community and Technical College in Canby, Minnesota, where Brandon Swanson was enrolled in the wind turbine program. So he was very into history and learning things and Earth, saving the Earth. So later that evening, after classes were out, he had just finished his first year, so he wanted to go celebrate with his friends. This was May 13th, 2008. He and his friends were celebrating at home in Canby, where they were also having a send-off party for one of their classmates. So it was kind of like a going-away party, and thank God the first year's over, I guess. According to witness reports, there was alcohol, and like all kids, he may have had a shot or two, but he definitely was not impaired by any means. So, none of his friends said that he did not, quote, did not appear to be intoxicated, unquote. When he left the party just after midnight on May 14th, some reason could not get a hold of them, and they just wouldn't answer his calls. At 1:54 a.m., which I kind of find a little bit odd. In a way, I don't know why. But at 1:54, that's 45 minutes later, he then calls his parents. So he told them that his car was stuck in a ditch off a gravel road. However, he was not entirely certain of his location. Apparently, it had gotten off the freeway, and because he had a little bit too much to drink and didn't want to get caught by the police, so he wanted to take a back way home. And as we'll find out, this was a strange decision because he ends up nowhere near where he thought he was, which leads to some other theories of possible drug use or hypothermia or some kind of mental breakdown he was having, but we will get to that. During the call, Swanson assured his parents he was not hurt, and he would wait with his car. So he told his parents, look, I'm not gonna go anywhere. I'm gonna stay here until you can find me. Turn on your flashing lights, and I'll turn on mine so you can see me down this dark road. He said Brian and Annette arrived at their son's location, and they did not see his vehicle though. So, which kind of confused them a little bit, and they were talking to Brandon the whole time on the cell phone, and he said, his dad kept saying, I'm here. Where are you? I don't see your car. So, even with the flashing lights, they still could not see each other, so I don't know why. But Brandon said he could see lights in the distance, and he was going to get out of his car and start walking. Now this is, it's 40 degrees outside. It's gonna get colder. It is Minnesota. He believed what the town he believed he was looking at was a town called Lynd, and he told his parents he would walk the rest of the way, and he would meet them at the Lynd Tavern in town. Brian said he stayed on the phone with his son while he was walking. As reported, Swanson planned to take a shortcut through some fields, and I think this is where, or he fell into a sinkhole or something. This is the decision that I think really led to his demise or disappearance. We don't know if he's dead, obviously, but that nothing has been found of him. And he was even walking, taking some shortcuts and saying to his dad, he was like, oh, I passed a gravel road and some fences, and he's like, oh gosh, not another fence. And you can tell, his dad could tell he was kind of getting emotionally drained and tired. He was just tired, and it's about 2:30 in the morning. Now he's told his dad that he could hear running water in the distance, and that he was walking. There was several fences that he had already passed. He was going over another one, and there was gravel roads. So there were access roads to wherever he was walking, and then a river. Brian, the father, said he and his son talked for 47 minutes, and then Brian said, quote, oh shit, unquote, and the call was abruptly dropped. Now, researching this, when the phone comes water, it would have just straight gone to voicemail. So that couldn't have happened, because if it had gone into the water, it would have gone right to voicemail immediately. That's what the phone company says. So Brian, his father, says, and there was nothing after that. There's like complete silence. It just went dead, but when he called him back, it would ring. It wouldn't go straight to voicemail. He believes that his son had fallen and slipped and fallen, possibly into the river that he was walking near. So Brian and Annette, they call their son back many, many times, but it always just ringing and ringing. By the following morning, like we were talking about, the calls were going directly to voicemail. The reports are Brian and Annette continued driving around looking for his son, but they did not find any signs of him or his car. So they actually did not find his car. At 6:30 in the morning, they called authorities to file a missing persons report. But you know what they're gonna say, right? They're gonna say, he's an adult. He ran away. He doesn't want to be found. He'll call you when he wants to be found. But here's the thing, he was on the phone with his dad. So obviously he wanted to be found. That doesn't make any sense. The police said that in total contradiction to themselves. I mean, it even says it is not unusual for men his age to go missing without contacting their parents. Well, he went missing while on the phone with his parents, so that leaves me to believe that he wanted to be found. So was Brandon's vehicle ever found? Brandon's vehicle was found by the police, and through a review of Brandon Swanson's cell phone records, revealing he was just outside Porter, Minnesota, while he was talking to his parents. The town he saw in the distance could not have been Lynd. He was 25 miles away from where he thought he was. Now that, I think, is also alarming, because that is such a big difference. I mean, it's really 25 miles from where he thought he was going. I don't know. The report saying that he was walking along Highway 68 between Canby and where he attended the party in Marshall, where his parents lived. Authorities began their search for Swanson shortly before noon, so it was fairly quick. However, I do think that if they would have got on it right away in the morning, they may have had better luck. I don't know. His Chevrolet Lumina was found in a ditch, just like he had claimed, on the borders of Lincoln and Yellow Medicine, Minnesota. So just over a mile from Taunton. So that is probably the lights he saw. Lincoln County Sheriff Jack Secchi said the vehicle was positioned in a way that Swanson would not have been able to get out. That to get any traction, he would need help. So, as reported, there was no visible damage to the vehicle, no signs that Swanson was injured in the incidents. There was no drugs, no alcohol, nothing at all found in the vehicle. There's nothing unusual in or around. There wasn't even footprints, which no signs of blood or trace evidence, and no indication of a struggle. As reported, the search dogs led the handlers to the edge of Yellow Medicine River. And this is kind of interesting and kind of telling in a way, but then reverses itself. This caused, so the dogs have led to Brandon's scent when they entered the river, right? But then authorities thought, okay, he must have fell into the water, right? But as the river was searched, Brandon's body was never found. None of his clothes, none of his cell phone was never found or located again. And he must have made it. What then they, got from that is that he made it out of the water and died of hypothermia. That was their guess, because the temperature was just under 40 degrees that morning. They do not believe foul play was involved. Reports of the search dogs indicate human remains near Mud Creek, north of border. However, authorities never found any remains. And then it takes them to a barn, and the dogs keep stopping and moving. So I don't know if this is just an area where people have died, because cadaver dogs only smell dead, human remains. They don't smell alive, they're trained specifically to find cadavers, or, the dead, not the living. They searched 122 square miles. That's huge. And there's a lot of land they couldn't get into because there was pasture land and they had cows in there, and it was just private land that they just were not allowed to go into. And Sheriff Bill Flatt had said, it's a huge area. If you take that immediate area where the car was, and then the time frame when he was talking on the phone with his parents, who knows what direction he went and how far he traveled. And that is true. He could have gone in any direction, because they never found anything. They just found the car, and that wasn't even in the right place that he said it was, or thought he was. Volunteer firefighter Darren E. Dilser said he has another theory. What happened to Swanson? Based on several things he noted about the case. So, in response to an article by Angela Marcos, Dilser said Swanson was legally blind in his left eye and always wore his glasses. However, on the morning he went missing, he left his glasses inside his car. Now, if you're legally blind, wouldn't you keep your glasses on? If you always wore them, why would you decide to take them off? It was almost like he was talking to his dad, but maybe he was really with an abductor. And when the abductor pulled out the gun and grabbed the phone, that's when his dad heard, oh shit, but then they turned it off, and it was And then as he's talking to his dad, is telling him, now I don't know what really his dad doesn't say the conversation he had with them. He's just telling all these accounts of what Brandon is saying, where he's at and what he's doing. His dad doesn't hear anybody else. But isn't it kind of funny we don't really hear any other conversation except him constantly giving his dad indications of where he's at. He leaves his glasses. Dad is strange for somebody legally blind, because he wouldn't be able to see at all, especially in the dark. So then he's just constantly, I'm walking past two dirt roads, 3 fences, there's a river beside me. It's almost as if he's giving a step-by-step to his dad to try to find him. Maybe he had went to turn around. This is kind of also what I had first thought, how he got stuck. Either somebody ran him off the road and he had to get over and got stuck, or he went to make a U-turn and then he got stuck because he was turning around and there was somebody there that either followed him. I mean, there's 100 different scenarios, but the more I think about it, those glasses are pretty significant as far as somebody who's legally blind. I know I don't have my glasses on tonight and I've been wearing them lately, and I literally am having a hard time reading this, and they're down there. I just don't feel like crawling over everything to get them. I'd probably tip over the candle and start a fire, knowing me. So that is really kind of unsettling to me, that really what his dad is telling authorities. I think he left him the glasses, and then he's giving him as much as he can about him. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Taken, but it's a great movie if you've never seen it. But her dad says, I want you to yell out, just leave the phone down and yell out everything you can about what you see. Give me the description of the guy, what's around you, anything you can, as fast as you can, until I can't hear you anymore. Just keep screaming. And maybe that's what Brandon was doing until they got to the place where they wanted to take him, because that's how long. Why would he get out of his car and just start walking aimlessly through the woods, not really knowing where he was at or not being familiar? That doesn't sound like. I don't know if somebody would do that if they knew their dad was 5 minutes away. Why wouldn't they just stay there? Even if they couldn't find him, maybe you would say, maybe I got turned around, but he was way off course. Okay, this is what we do know. He was way off course. He had lived in that area for a while, so you would think he would know where he was going, unless being followed and maybe chased, who knows, gets stuck on the side of the road. For what reason? Didn't say that it was icy or rainy, and we know it wasn't icy because it was around 40 degrees. And then him leaving his glasses there and telling to maybe he's telling his dad where he's going, that his dad maybe it would click that he was nowhere near where he thought he was. Maybe he knew that, he just couldn't tell them because he had already been abducted. I didn't even think about this before, away from anybody. You know, that doesn't really sound that plausible to me personally. It has also been suggested that Swanson made some kind of mental breakdown. Yes, but he didn't have a history of it. I mean, he could have been drugged. He could have been drugged at the party, and somehow a perpetrator had done this, drugged him, pretended to be a student, and kidnapped him or followed him out into the country. I also find it kind of strange that when he called his friends, none of them answered or called him back. I thought that was a little bit weird. Since it wasn't that long, he wouldn't have gone a bit that quickly. I can't imagine. So, you know, and his parents said he seemed very lucid when he was talking to him on the phone. Like, he was very clear-headed. And like I'm saying, almost too clear-headed. Like, he was trying to give instructions of where he was being taken, because the phone wouldn't have just died. The theory that he may have fallen into the water and then made it back out or drowned has also been criticized, as his phone seemed to be working after the call with his father when it was disconnected. Minnesota's Unsolved reports that if the phone were submerged in water, all of the calls would have gone straight to voicemail instantly. Although it is plausible the phone fell on the ground while Swanson fell in the water, his dad would have still heard the splash. His dad would have still heard other commotions going on. So, I don't know. And the phone was never recovered again near any of the bodies of water in the region. Although he may have sought shelter. Okay, here's another theory. That he sought shelter in an abandoned building. Most, if not all, of the buildings in that 122 square area were searched, and neither his remains or his clothes, his bones, nothing was recovered. So that tells me he was taken. I don't know, it just feels like, you know, he calls his parents. Okay, I'm just getting chills. I don't know why. He calls his parents 45 minutes after he calls his friends, right? Or he gets into this accident or incident. Leaves his glasses. I remember in the beginning where I mentioned that it was really strange how there was 45 minutes there that he didn't call his parents. I mean, it was so late. Why would he wait an entire 45 minutes to make that phone call? I don't know. That just to me sounds very, like a long, time to wait very strange in itself, as much as they searched. But as reported by Minnesota's Unsolved Cases, it is also possible that he was abducted and involved in a hit and run. I don't know. I think he was probably taken, or somebody had pinpointed him. He's a nice guy. Who knows why people pick, why predators pick the people they do. But, they think that the driver panicked after the hit and run, maybe disposed of his body. However, there's no evidence at the scene of a struggle. So, if he had gotten into a car with somebody, or somebody had stopped to help him, because there was 45 minutes between the time he called his friends and the time he called his parents, and nobody mentions that is a long time, that he just sat there in the middle of the night in the complete darkness. If you close your eyes, think about that. It is in the middle of the country, in the middle of the night. It would be black night. So I don't think that he would be waiting to call his parents if his friends didn't answer. So Annette and Brian Swanson believe their son's disappearance may have been solved if law enforcement